Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophets Speak. Today we are studying the chapter 2 of the book of the prophet Nahum, the Navi Nahum Perek Beis, and this is Saul Weinreb, the host for your podcast. The last chapter that we read, which was the first chapter of the book of Nahum, was primarily a warning to the people of Nineveh, the capital of the nation of Assyria, and a warning that they had drawn the wrong conclusions from their success in the past of avoiding destruction by God. And the conclusions that they had made was that basically they can get away with anything and they can continue oppressing others, and that God was not powerful enough to punish them and to take care of them, so to speak. Because of those wrong conclusions, Nahum ended the first chapter. The prophet ended by saying, since God now sees that you are not going to repent, you are not going to humble yourselves before God like you did once upon a time in the days of Jonah, therefore your time is up. And that's how he ended in the last two verses. This chapter here, chapter 2, he is going to talk, since the decision has just been made at the end of the last chapter, he's going to talk about the destruction of Nineveh and also give us a pretty strong hint as to what exactly was wrong with Nineveh and what is the sin that they are being punished for. So let us begin with verse 1. And the verse 1 actually starts from the perspective of the nation that was oppressed. Now Nahum was standing prophesying to the people of Yehuda, the people of Judah, and he is they are one of the primary recipients of the oppression of the people of Assyria. So he's talking to them. Hinei, behold, al hehorim, on the mountains, raglei mevaser. You can look up on the mountains and see the footsteps of the one bringing the news, Mashmiah Shalom, the one who is coming to tell us that Assyria has been destroyed. Remember, Assyria is to the north. When one approaches Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, the capital of Judah, from the north, one approaches from the mountains, and he's coming to bring the news of the destruction of Assyria, which happened at the hands of the Babylonians. So the prophecy is saying that Nineveh will be destroyed by their enemies, and someone is coming to tell the people of Judah the news that your oppressors are now gone. Mashmiah Shalom, the one who is coming to bring the news of peace. Chagi Yehuda Chagayich Shalmi Nidorayich. Yehuda, you can now celebrate your holidays. You can fulfill all of your vows to God. You can feel free to go back to worshiping God and stop being nervous and worried and anxious about your oppressors to the north. Kilo Yosif od la'avor bach b'lial kulo nechras, because no longer will the Belial is the bully, or the people, the blasphemers, the people that tried to caused you so much suffering. They will no longer come among you. Kulo nechras, they have been completely destroyed. Allah meifitz al panayich. The meifitz, the one who scatters everyone about, because when the invaders come, everyone scatters. So they are called the meifitz. They have left. They have once come upon you. So Allah meifitz. The one who is the one who came upon you, Natsar Mitzura, they have now enclosed themselves into their fortifications. The translation I just gave was the translation of Rashi, and the Radak looks at it a little differently. He says Allah meifitz, the meifitz has left, right? He's gone. And Natsar Mitzura, therefore you can go back and rebuild the fortified cities which he has destroyed. That would be a second way of reading this. One way out, the way the Radak reads this is like if you understand, when people are confident in their security, then they feel strong. They can build themselves up, and that kind of, I'm going to continue reading it along that path. Sapei derech, go ahead. You can now look out on the roads. Chazek masnaim. You can steady up you can strengthen your loins. Ametz koach ma'od. You can strengthen yourselves and be strong and brave now, very strong and brave, because you don't have to worry anymore about those powerful oppressors from the north. You can start building yourself up. You can start rebuilding those cities that have been destroyed, and so on. Kishav Adonai et Gaon Yaakov, because God is going to return or restore the greatness. This Gaon could mean pride. In some cases, it means pride in a negative way. In some cases, it means the pride in a positive way. And here it means it in a positive way, because God has restored the pride of Jacob, ki Gaon Yisrael, like the pride of Israel. Now, usually Gaon Yisrael would mean the northern kingdom as opposed to the southern kingdom, which was called Yehuda. In this case, Gaon Yisrael, most of the commentaries understand this to mean that like God is going to restore the pride of the people of Jacob, like the pride of Israel that was from the days gone by. In other words, the days before they split up, the days when it was at its height, its powerful days, the days of David, the days of Solomon. God is going to restore the pride of Yaakov like the pride of the old days, which makes one wonder if this prediction here is referring to the time when the Assyrians were destroyed, or maybe this is referring to a time ultimately in the future days, the days of the Messiah, because there never really was a time that God restored all of the people of Israel to its glory days, so to speak. But that remains to be understood. Of course, one can understand these verses many different ways. Ki v'kokum, we're still in verse 3, Ki v'kokum bokikim uzumorehem shichetu. Even though the bokikim, which I saw the JPS translates as marauders, bokikim are those that run into a place and empty it of everything that's there. The looters, the rioters, right? They have come and they have emptied out the entire people of Israel, Uzmorehem shichesu, and they cut down all of their branches, so to speak. They cut down their branches by exiling them, by destroying them. However, God will restore the people. That would be one way of understanding kivikakum, that is referring to Israel. The Metzudos feels that this kivikakum bokekim refers to the people of Nineveh. So that the verse would be read as follows: God has restored the pride of Yaakov because he has emptied out the people of Nineveh and destroyed the branches of the people of Nineveh by the wars that have been waged against the people of Nineveh and Assyria. We then turn to verse 4, which is most of the commentaries understand this to be referring to the people of Assyria. And I'm going to first read it the way they read it, and then I'm going to suggest another possible way to read it. So, Magen Giborehu, the shields of their powerful men, Mi'adam, are painted red, because red is like a royal color, but also a frightening color, but also one that gets attention. Anshe Chayil Metulaim, their armed men are dressed in cloaks that are Metulaim, that are in crimson colored. They're colored red, bright red uniforms. Be'esh pilotos harechev biyom hachino. The rechav, their chariots are bright like flaming torches on the day that they are prepared. They're brand new, shining, bright red like flames. We have broshim, and their spears, or broshim could also mean their arrows, haralu, are tipped with poison. The people of Nineveh are ready for war. Bachutzos, and outside, yisholulu harechev. The chariots are making a ton of noise, and they're running and going. Yishtak shikun barachavot. This word is kind of onomatopoeia. Yishtak shikun. You're hearing all the clicking and clacking, shtak 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 shtak, in the streets. Marehen kalapidim. They look like fire, because when the metal wheels scrape against the rocks, they create sparks, and these they are running and sparkling like streaks of lightning. Yizkor Adirav, and he calls out to, as the king of Nineveh calls out to his powerful men, and Yikashlu b'halichasam, and they start stumbling and tripping over each other as they go on their ways. Yimaharu chomasa, and they start running towards the wall to defend it. V'huchan hasochech, and the sochech, which means like a shelter from the word of sukkah. A shelter is prepared. There's various ways to understand this, but the Radak explains that the sochech are when the besieging army approaches the wall to try to undermine and break down the wall. They put big they carry posts with a roof on it to cover them, so that the stones that are being thrown down at them from the top of the wall shouldn't harm them. And what we're reading here is that the defenders are rushing towards the wall to defend it, and the oncoming army is ready with their shelters in order to come and break down the wall. And then what happens? Shaharehan haros niftachu. Then the gates of the rivers, because we know that the gates of the city of Nineveh opened up to the rivers, the Euphrates and the Tigris, that they are opened, v'haichal namog, and all of a sudden, once the gates are opened, the city falls, and the heichal, which is the palace, is being struck down, is being destroyed. V'hutzav gulita ho'alosa, and this is verse 8. Hutzav is translated by Rashi and the Metzudos to refer to the queen, from the language we find in Psalms, where it says, the daughters of kings will wait upon you. This is in Psalms 45 verse 10. Nitzeva shegal limincha, the queen will be standing at the right. So it uses the language of nitzva, the same root, to refer to the queen. So v'hutzav, the queen who stands at the side of the king, gulitza, she has been exiled, ho'alasa, and she is carried away. The amhosea and her servants, her maidservants, her handmaidens, minhagos, are acting, or they are escorting her out, kekol yonim, like doves that are crying, mitofefos alibeim, they are striking their hearts with their hands in grief as they escort the queen out of the heichal. I wanted to go back to verse 4 and read these verses a little bit differently, and read I would suggest that it's possible we read this a different way. And if you noticed, in the middle of verse, when we came to verse 6, we read verse 4 and 5 talking about the red, royal and bright shields and uniforms of the Assyrian soldiers, and then in verse 6 we learned that the general, I guess, called out his people and told them, go defend the wall. And then all of a sudden we flipped and said, v'huchan hasochech, that the shelters of the people attacking are now prepared. So there's this flip from talking about the people being attacked to the people attacking. It's kind of a little jarring the way it flips from one to the other. So I want to suggest a possible way to read these verses very differently. That from verse 4 and on, it's actually referring to the attackers. I'm sorry, it's referring to the people of Nineveh, but in a totally different way. And it would be as follows. And that is as follows. Magen Giborehu, his powerful, the shields of his powerful people, Adam, are bloody with blood, because they are getting slaughtered. Anshe Chayil Metulaim, the men men in arms, the armed men are Metulaim. They're garments are soaked red. Be'esh pilados harechev, their chariots get burned in fire. Biyom achino, the day they're trying to build them, they're already burnt. V'haberoshim haralu, and the arrows that are aimed at them are tipped with poison. Bachutzos, outside yisholulu harechev, the chariots are making tons of noise and tumult because they're losing. They're getting attacked, and there's just tumult in the camp that's that's being attacked and trying to retreat. Yishtak shekun barchovos, and they're clicking and clacking and banging and smashing all over the streets. Marayen kilapidim, they look like flames just flying everywhere because they're burning. They're being destroyed by the enemy. Kabrakim yirotzetsu, like lightning. They're getting crushed. This yirotzetsu here would mean getting crushed. And then yizkor adirav, and now we flip to he then calls out to his powerful ones, trying to tell them to attack back and fight, but yikashlu ba'alichasom, they keep on tripping over as they run. Every time they try to fight, they trample over each other because it's all chaos. Himaharu chomasa, when they try to run towards the wall to protect it. V'uchan hasochech, and they prepare the shelters because they're trying to duck. They're trying to duck into shelters to protect themselves from the oncoming onslaught and the fire coming from the enemy that's attacking. And then Sharei HaNaros Niftachu, the gates are open, V'Haichal Namog. I believe that my way reads a lot smoother, and I just wanted to suggest that as a possible reading of these verses. So now I'll go on to verse 9. V'Ninveh kibrechas mayim imehi. Nineveh used to be in the olden days. From the old days, it was like a tranquil pool of water. It had everything it needed. It was protected. The waters didn't flow out. They were there and they were reliable. But now it's just flowing out everywhere. It's like somebody busted a hole in the tank and the water's just flowing everywhere. Imdu amodu, he's calling out, stand, stop and fight. Ve'ein mafneh, but no one is turning around, no one is listening, everyone is running. And then the enemy is yelling, Bozu kesef, Bozu zahav, let's plunder all of the silver and plunder all of the gold. Ve'ein ketzel atchuna, there is no limit to the amount of wealth and riches that we can find here in this city. Kavod mikol kli chemda, it is full. It is heavy. It is full with all kinds of wonderful vessels and objects that we can find. Buka umevuka umevulaka. This place is now empty and desolate and devastated. V'leiv names, and the heart of the people has sunk. Morale is completely gone. Upik birkayim, their knees are chattering and the knees are buckled. People are just collapsed to the floor. V'chalchola b'chol masnayim, and everyone's in their waists and their bellies, and it's just this feeling of trembling and this feeling of loss. Ufnei chulam kibsu farur, and the faces of everyone has become gray and desolate. In these next three, which are the last three verses, we're going to get a hint as to why God is meting out this destruction against Nineveh. There's this, or at least one major aspect of what was wrong with Nineveh and why they deserved this punishment. And we know this from history, and we know this from many the books of the prophets and so on. We've seen this before, how vicious they were, and how when they conquered other nations, and how they acquired their wealth by conquering other nations, and also by double-crossing them. The double-crossing aspect we're going to get to in Nahum 3. But in the next three verses, we're going to talk more about the viciousness with which they oppressed the nations that they conquered. Ayeh ma'on aroyos, where is that den of lions? Umirehu lakvirim, that place where the young lions in that city would wander as if they were at pasture. Asher halach aryeh lavi sham, the place where the lions, and the lavi is another word for lions, they would all go there. Gur aryeh ve'ein machrid, a place where the lion's cub would be, and there was nothing that they were afraid of. What happened to that den of lions? That den of lions that, let's do verse 13, the lion who would leave that city and tear up other people and tear up other nations in order to feed his own children. And the lion who strangled other nations in order to feed his young lions. The one who filled his dens, his holes, his homes, his places. He filled it with the torn up wealth and the torn up bodies of the ones who he conquered. Onosov terefa, and his storehouses are full of what he has taken from others. This is, where did he go? Where did that happen to him? That's what the world is going to say. He used to be this den of lions that fed upon the rest of the world. But now God says in verse 14, I am going to deal with you. Says God himself. I am going to burn up in everything, all of your chariots, and your power is going to be burnt up in smoke. And your young lions that your armies went to plunder other places and bring back the booty, they are now going to be devoured by sword. I will end from the land, end from the world your killing that you've been killing all around the world will no longer happen. And the voice of your messengers, the messengers that preceded the army. We learned in Isaiah how the people of Assyria would have a messenger would come and try to intimidate and announce the arrival of the big army and try to intimidate them into surrender. All those messengers, the voice and sound of those messengers will no longer be in the world. So we now understand why God had such anger for the people of Nineveh. It was because of their behavior, because of their oppression, and for that reason, they will be gone, they will be lost from the world, and those that are oppressed, including the nation of Judah, will be able to find some peace and respite from their oppression. Thank you so much for studying Nahum chapter 2. Looking forward to studying chapter 3 together.